I never believed a house could watch you. Not until last November. The first thing you need to understand is that my basement was always unfinished. Bare concrete walls, exposed pipes overhead, and a smell that reminded me of wet cardboard left out in the rain. The house itself was old, built sometime in the 1940s according to the county records, but the basement felt older than that, like it belonged to something built long before the house was placed on top of it. I moved into the place after my divorce because it was cheap and isolated. The nearest neighbor was almost half a mile away. At the time, isolation sounded peaceful. For the first few weeks, nothing strange happened. Then I started hearing movement downstairs. Not loud noises, not dramatic banging or footsteps like in horror movies. It was softer than that. Small, careful sounds. A faint scrape against concrete. The sound of cardboard shifting. Sometimes what sounded like a fingernail lightly tapping a pipe. Every time I checked, nothing was there. I told myself the house was settling. Old houses breathe. Pipes contract. Mice exist. That explanation worked for a while, until the smell started. It drifted up through the floor vents late at night. Damp earth mixed with something sweet and rotten underneath, like flowers left too long in standing water. The odor got stronger every evening around 2 or 3 in the morning. The weird part was how specific the smell felt. It wasn't random decay. It smelled alive. One night I woke up choking on it. I sat upright in bed with my eyes watering, convinced something had died in the walls. I checked every room upstairs before finally standing at the basement door in the kitchen. The smell was strongest there. I remember gripping the doorknob and feeling how cold it was. Not cool from weather, freezing cold, like metal left in snow. I opened the door. Darkness. The basement light switch was at the bottom of the stairs, which always annoyed me. I stood there listening. Nothing. But the smell rolled upward in thick waves. I almost went back upstairs. I should have. Instead, I pulled out my phone flashlight and started down. The wooden steps creaked under my weight. Halfway down, I noticed something strange. The air felt warmer below. That made no sense because basements are usually colder. But the farther I descended, the warmer and wetter the air became. Sweat formed on the back of my neck immediately. At the bottom, my flashlight swept across stacks of old moving boxes left by the previous owner. Shelves of paint cans. Rusted tools hanging from nails. Everything normal. Then the beam landed on the far wall. There was dirt on the floor. Fresh dirt. Not much. Just a thin trail of dark soil leading behind the water heater. I stood there staring at it for a long time. I knew that basement floor. It was bare concrete. There should not have been dirt anywhere. I walked toward it slowly. The smell became overwhelming. My flashlight shook in my hand as I leaned behind the heater. There was a hole in the wall. Not a crack. A hole. About 2 feet wide, jagged around the edges like something had clawed through the concrete from the other side. Loose chunks of cement lay scattered around the opening. Beyond it was darkness. Complete darkness. I remember crouching there, trying to process what I was seeing. My first thought was that maybe there had been some kind of crawl space hidden behind the wall. Then I noticed the scratches. Long grooves lined the inside edges of the opening, deep enough to expose lighter concrete underneath. The marks didn't look like tool damage. They looked made by fingers. I backed away immediately. The entire basement suddenly felt wrong. The air felt thick, almost humid, and I couldn't shake the feeling that something inside that hole was listening to me breathe. I went upstairs, locked the basement door, and barely slept that night.